People may remember games like Cannon Fodder, wherein you guided a squad of soldiers through a series of dangerous and fast-paced missions. Your pool of soldiers was limited but nevertheless expandable to a degree. This appears to be the some parallels of this F1 season. Just a handful of races in, Liam Lawson was kicked out of Red Bull, and a few races after that, Jack Doohan returned to the subs bench at Alpine. F1 has always been a sink or swim game unless the driver brings enough financial backing to offset any underperformance. Even then, teams of any ambition still part, as we saw with Nicholas Latifi and Logan Sargent. However, history provides case studies of drivers who appear to be more than averagely talented, only flounder when they get their shot at the big time. Stephen South, to pick out one example, impressed enough running his own F2 car to get a shot in F1. But yeah, he failed miserably after the test with Lotus and McLaren, and was like one of the worst drivers McLaren have ever fielded. Many others have followed this route. The majority have contested more than one race, not being quick or wealthy enough, which has usually just been the case. Though there are outliers such as Irish maverick Tommy Byrne, who made 5 appearances, whose somewhat distinctive career led to more serious-minded heads in the F1 paddock passing him over. Often these drivers have arrived at a difficult, potentially politically tense time for a team's existence, whether it be a sponsor pulling apart or whatever. They are paralysed with the situation at Alpine, where which has almost been permanently in reboot since Renault reacquired the team in 2016. The most recent management shake-ups yielded Flavio Briatore returning as team principal, with Audio's sudden departure this week. Briatore, you recall, was at the heart of the shenanigans, resulting in Michael Schumacher joining Benetton from Jordan. Flav isn't a shy man and moving fast and breaking decisions, and yeah, we saw that with the Mercedes power unit. See also the extension of the young driver roster, and now Alpine has so many reserve drivers. It's ridiculous, and that's led to Franco Colapinto replacing Dillon. To any extent, the noisy Castlefall from Latin America would have followed the escalation strategy anyway, even if Dillon through the first 6 rounds hadn't been so haphazard. Recently, Alpine has had to restrict comments on social media feeds to restrict the comments to Dillon from the Argentine fans. In the sporting world as well as the political and corporate world, and indeed Monarch's court in federal Europe, it's an inevitable consequence of regime change that high-profile individuals closely associated with or recruited by the previous regime are next to face the axe. Dillon was therefore on a slightly streaky wicket, even when he was announced as an Alpine reserve driver. Well-informed rumours have been swirling since Alpine dropped off on the Dillon contract only guaranteed him a few races. While the axe had taken longer to swing for Dillon it did for Lawson at Red Bull, the reasons are understood to be broadly similar. When a team loses faith in a driver, there's generally a tipping point where it becomes untenable. 2 races were all it took for Red Bull to decide Lawson wasn't going to get to grips with the car, and although Dillon to get a bit longer, it feels like the crash maybe in Japan was too much for Renault to handle. You may conclude there are parallels here with these nincompoops who sued a well-known fast food chain after being scalded by coffee that hadn't been warm as hot. But in Dillon's defence, there's clearly disparity in the outcomes. Since then, he has been positive.
Anyway, guys, that's it for this video. Thanks very much for watching. Remember to like, share, and subscribe. Follow us on our socials. Link in the description below for daily F1 news, memes, and content. Subscribe to our other channels on screen right now. That would be greatly appreciated. Thanks very much for watching. Peace out.
Dillon still has his supporters in Alpine. And yeah, it seems like he'll be staying on, but the figure heading through the door, Colapinto, has done enough in his Grand Prix at Williams, and obviously has the backing to see that, this will be a good move for Alpine and unlock that market. You may think this meeting as sort of treatment isn't a way to get the best out of young drivers, and Oak's key to that view. If we were to express the reasons for young drivers getting so little time to make an impression in terms of a Venn diagram, we would undoubtedly go for commercial and driver talent, and that's how it fits in. Another factor is the sheer difficulty of the current generation of the ground effect cars. To some extent, you can see Lewis Hamilton's even had his problems with it. With cost controls, opportunities to test have grown fewer, and young drivers get less chances. Another major factor is preparation. Oliver Bearman and Kimi Antonelli have done so much rookie testing, whereas drivers like Hadjar and Borgstetter may haven't had as much. So yeah, you can see how important it is really to get used to the car and everything. And yeah, it just didn't seem like Jack Dillon really maybe had the opportunity of the other drivers, and that obviously had him on the back foot for the off with so little testing time these days.